Good evening and welcome to Travel News, sort of, Corona edition. My name is Maggie Gomez, I'm with the Nomadic, and today is Friday, May 1st of 2020. So I want to tell you a little bit about myself so you understand what I'm doing here and what my goal is, and see what we can expect from this. So I came to the United States about 27 years ago, and I've worked in the corporate world ever since. And until 6 months ago, I was done. I was just fed up, and I decided that I wanted to start traveling the world, and I wanted to figure out, I was very determined to figure out how other people could travel the world full time. And I did a lot of research, I did a lot of work, a lot of experimentations with different businesses and such, and I was able to figure it out. In fact, I wrote a book about it. It's this one right here. If you want to check it out, knock yourself out. If not, that's quite all right. But the bottom line is that 6 months ago, I quit my corporate job and I bought a one-way ticket to Santiago, Chile. That was going to be my first leg to start backpacking throughout the world. And that ticket, that flight, was scheduled for today, Friday, May 1st. Obviously, the universe had a complete different plan and all the flights were canceled. The whole travel industry came to a halt because of COVID-19, obviously. And so here I am trying to understand, trying to make sense of everything. And selfishly, I want to have two questions answered, which I'm sure they're in everybody's mind as well. One is, when are we going to be able to travel again? And two, for the new norm, what traveling is going to look like after COVID-19, okay? And the reason I want to understand that is because, of course, I cannot wait to, grab my backpack and start traveling the world and, walk down the aisle once again. The aisle, that's what I meant. Anyway, actually, by the way, I took that from Facebook, from a group that I belong to, but I have no idea who created that. So if you know who did, please let me know, because I would love to give them proper credit. In fact, if you have any travel related joke that you want me to feature, please send them my way and give me your information, because of course I would like to give you proper credit for it. But the bottom line is, I cannot wait to start traveling again. But obviously I'm not the only one. In my year of working and figuring things out as to how I could travel full time, I discovered this network, this community of amazing people. In fact, I am a member of 5 different groups on Facebook whose main objective is to support each other, to be a community, a helping hand for each other, of these digital nomads. And these digital nomads, they make their living out of platforms where traveling is their main topic. So you can understand how much they are hurting right now. So we're not talking about the employees from the travel industry. By all means, oh my gosh, my heart goes out to all of you if you are in the travel industry, and I hope you're, doing all right. But we're not talking about the casual, tourist either that, goes on a trip once or twice a year. No, we're talking about millions of people who are the digital nomads, the freelancers, the small micro Instagram influencers who make money out of, their posts, travel related posts, right? And currently they don't have that source of income, or, the YouTubers who, post travel related articles, really interesting stuff, amazing things, and they don't have a source of income right now because, they're not able to travel. We're not able to travel. So that is the community that I couldn't dare to say that I'm representing, but I feel that I am part of that community. So, I was going to start traveling the world, and I was going to start monetizing on my passions, and I was going to start utilizing social media as the platform to help me, bring resources, right? Because, like I said, I quit my job. I sold everything that I had. I got rid of everything. My house is completely empty. I have nothing. I even got rid of 90% of my clothes. I got rid of all of that. So I feel that I am part of that community, and that is really the main reason why I'm looking for the answers to when are we going to start traveling again, and what travel is going to look like for the new norm, right? So what I wanted to do is just, grab a couple of articles that, may have caught my attention during the week that may address some of those questions, or articles, that may be food for thought. But please keep in mind, I am not an expert by any means. I really know nothing about anything. I'm just here for the entertainment of things, mostly my own entertainment, and I'm not looking to, post anything negative or death tolls or anything political at all. If you need to vent, if you want to vent, there are other platforms for that. I really just want to, give you the facts. I just want to understand, what the travel industry is doing, what organizations such as the World Health Organization or the CDC are, advising to do or are planning to do in order to bring back up the travel industry, and at the same time make us travelers feel safe again. That's who I am. That's my goal. Let's see what happens. So the first article that got my attention, it was written by Don Gilbertson, and it was published by USA Today on Tuesday, April 28th of 2020. And the CEO of Southwest, Gary Kelly, is quoted saying, "Travel will not resume until places like Disney World reopen." And when I first read that, I thought to myself, well, that's a little over dramatic now, is it? But after I read the article, and then after I did a little bit of research and related to statistics, sadly, it kind of made sense. And I said sadly because I think we all know that until a vaccination is up and running, right? I don't think that touristic places such as Disney World are going to reopen. So I think we kind of have a long ways to go, and I hope I'm wrong. I am very interested to know what you think. But here's what I got about the article. So first of all, let's talk about statistics, and I found that very interesting. 2.3 billion domestic flights are triggered in the United States every year. 2.3 billion. And those flights, those domestic flights, are triggered because of tourism. So people traveling to Disney World, to Las Vegas, to New York City, to California, to Chicago, the Grand Canyon, etc. So if those places remain closed for tourism, then that means that it's very unlikely that airplanes are going to start functioning again at the rate that we know. Because the most expensive cost, the highest expense for an airline is the gas that is needed to move an airplane from one place to another. The flight has to be full in order for the airline to make some money, right? If the flight is half full, they're probably breaking even depending on where that plane is going. If that plane is, 5-10% capacity, then obviously the airline is losing money. So if the touristic places that trigger the 2.3 billion domestic flights a year remain closed, very likely those flights are not going to be operational the way that they were until a vaccine is in place. There is a possibility, of course, that when things start opening up again, that the schedules are going to be more sporadic, right? They're not going to be 10 different options every single day, but maybe one flight every 3 or 5 days. Who knows? But I really don't want to be grim, but I'm just going off of what this article is saying. So, and that kind of grounded me because I was still hopeful, right? I was like, oh yeah, next month I'm gonna be able to backpack, or 2 months from today I'm gonna be able to, go on the trip that I wanted to. But then I think that this article started to put things into perspective, and I was thinking to myself, well, maybe not so fast. So, from an economical perspective, from the airline point of view, until a vaccine is not up and running, very likely the frequency of the flights is not going to be the way it was, not for a long time. So I think we need to start adapting and accepting that. So starting with airports, obviously, very likely masks are going to be mandatory on all airports, and very likely all the airports, in fact, some airports are already disinfecting everything. But I'm thinking, if airports are when airports become active, they're probably going to be disinfecting everything all day long. That's probably going to be the new norm. Now, without a vaccine, would you feel comfortable traveling? I personally would not. I'm not sure what to think about that. Even if a vaccine is available, right? What kind of testing there is going to be accessible? So right now we know of the shortage of tests. In fact, you may have seen in the news on TV the thermometer guns that are being utilized, especially in Asia. And actually, that's a great segue for the next article that I wanted to cover. And this article was published by Business Insider back in February of 2020, when everything was starting to shut down here in the US. Although in Asia, they were already taking measurements in order to not test people, but try to screen people to see if they were running a fever or not. And it has to do with the thermometer guns. So this article talks about how screening for coronavirus with these thermometer guns is notoriously not accurate. So when I first read that, I thought, well, great, a piece of equipment, technological equipment that doesn't work. But it's actually not the equipment itself, but rather the way that individuals are using it. So first of all, how does this work? So these are thermometers that use infrared lights in order to measure the temperature of the person's surface without having to touch their skin. Okay, so what you do is just, kind of target the person that you want to screen their temperature. But what people are doing is they're either not using it close enough, or using it either too far or too close, right? And so because of that, it's just not giving an accurate reading of the person's temperature. So we have that on one hand. On the other hand, as we all know by now, that even if someone is infected with the coronavirus, that person might not necessarily show symptoms. In fact, if the person is asymptomatic, that may not have a fever whatsoever. So even if the thermometer gun is being used properly or accurately, it might not read the temperature, a high temperature, because the person might just not be running a fever. Also, opposite to that is, maybe someone who does not have coronavirus, maybe they have something else, or maybe they're naturally, they naturally have a high temperature, may read a high temperature in this thermometer gun and be, targeted as someone who has coronavirus, which, when it's not the case. So I found that very interesting because I'm very curious to know, what is going to be put in place from a technological perspective. I'm sure that, either better thermometer guns need to be put out in the market, or better training for how to use them. And also there's got to be some other type of better testing that would be able to screen someone who has the virus yet is asymptomatic. So that is the reason why I picked that article. So on that note, let's talk about the CDC for a minute here. CDC is the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Okay, so the first page that talks about testing for COVID-19, right? It talks about two types of tests available. And I didn't know this, so this is very good to know. There are two types of tests available, not readily accessible, as we all know. That's a different story, but there are two tests available. One is the viral test, and the other one is the antibody test. And what's the difference? The viral test tells you if you currently have the infection, the virus. And the antibody test tells you if you had it in the past. Okay, so antibody test may not be able to show if you have a current infection because it takes 1 to 3 weeks, for the antibodies to create in your body, in your organism, right? And so since it takes, a few weeks for symptoms to show, that delays the reading even more. So that's probably the reason why you hear the stories about, testing being inaccurate, coming out negative when the person in fact did have the coronavirus, etc. So now I am not saying that the tests themselves were accurate or not. I'm not saying that. I don't know that. This article is not addressing that. I'm just talking about the two different types of tests available. I didn't know that, so it's good to know. Viral and antibody. So there. And lastly, let's talk about a website that I always refer to. It is the travel.state.gov website. And as of today, May 1st of 2020, still showing level 4 for the travel advisory. So do not travel. Not domestically, international, you couldn't even if you wanted to, just because all planes are grounded. So even if you wanted to, there's possibly not possible way that you can go anywhere. But anyhow, level 4. So what does level 4 mean? And let me back up a little bit here. So when we are talking about the U.S. Department of State and their website, travel.state.gov, we are talking about travel advisories that are given to all the countries in the world. So there are going to be countries where there are a level 1 travel advisory, and that means just exercise normal precaution if you want to go to, this or that country. Level 2 travel advisory means exercise increased caution, either be mindful because there is a lot of, pickpocketing here or, etc., whatever the advisory is for. Level 3 travel advisory is reconsider travel. So basically, I would not go there. If I were you, you can if you must, but probably not a good idea because could be because of terrorism. Level 4 travel restriction, that is do not travel, right? So that is up until now, right? I only saw that when it came to a war zone, right? You couldn't travel to one or another country if the U.S. was actively engaged in a war. There was a level 4, but with coronavirus, now we see that the U.S. Department of State has issued a level 4 globally, so nobody can travel anywhere. So global level 4 health advisory, do not travel. Granted, that advisory was put in place as of March 31st of 2020. That's still active, so nobody can go anywhere or come into the United States for that matter. So that is what we have to report for now. And on that, let's talk about U.S. passport applications. Only because I just posted this video right here where I talk about the application of U.S. passports in normal circumstances. And that was a scheduled post. I had planned that for at least 6 months. So, but Corona edition, right, in today's times, according to U.S. Department of State, passport applications are being limited only to those that have a life or death type of reason behind them. So if there's a life or death situation, those are the only U.S. passport applications that are being considered. So that is pretty much what I wanted to talk about. To answer the question when we're gonna start traveling again, who the heck knows? Hopefully sooner rather than later. We're all waiting. There are millions and millions of people who their livelihoods depend on travel, on the travel industry. So me included. So I feel for you. I hope you're staying safe. And if you want to send me a travel related joke, I'll be more than happy to post it out here and send me your information so I can give you proper credit. Until next week, be safe. Maggie with No Model.